If you're drawn to dark romance where isolation strips away pretense, where silence becomes charged, and where desire grows slowly in confined spaces, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is the story of the winter I agreed to share a cabin, and the man who made silence feel louder than words. The cabin isn't supposed to be shared. That's the first thing I remind myself as the truck disappears down the snow-covered road, leaving me alone with a building half buried in white and a sky already darkening though it's barely afternoon. 3 months. That was the contract. Caretaker for a remote winter property while the owner traveled overseas. Feed the generator. Check the pipes. Keep the place standing through storms most people flee from. I took the job because it paid well, and because I needed somewhere quiet enough to disappear. What the listing didn't mention was him. I hear movement before I see him. Boots on wood. Measured. Unhurried. The cabin door opens from the inside. He stands there like he's been expecting me. White. Mid-30s. Tall in a way that feels solid rather than imposing. Dark hair dusted with snow. Heavy coat thrown over broad shoulders like the cold doesn't bother him as much as it should. "You must be the caretaker," he says. His voice is calm. Low. Certain. "And you are?" I ask. "Elias," he replies. "I'm staying for the winter." That's when the silence shifts. "I wasn't told the cabin was occupied," I say. "You weren't," he agrees. "It wasn't supposed to be." "Then why?" "Storms cut off my return route," he says simply. "And the owner allowed me to stay." Allowed. The word lingers. We stand there, cold seeping into my boots, neither of us moving aside. Finally he steps back. "You should come in," he says. "The temperature's dropping." It isn't an invitation. It's a fact. The cabin is warm inside. Fire burning. No need. Everything functional. Used, not staged. This isn't a vacation rental. This is a place someone lives in. "I'll take the east room," I say quickly. "If that's fine." "It is," Elias replies. "I'm on the west side." No negotiation. No argument. Just acceptance. That should make me feel better. Doesn't. The first week passes quietly. Too quietly. Snow piles against the windows. Wind howls through the trees like something restless. We fall into routines without discussing them. I handle the generator. He checks the perimeter. We cook separate meals. We don't ask questions. But silence in a confined space isn't empty. It's watchful. Elias never touches me. Not when he passes behind me in the narrow kitchen. Not when we sit at opposite ends of the table. Not when the floorboards creak at night and I freeze in my bed. But I feel him everywhere. In the way he always positions himself where he can see the door. In the way his attention sharpens when I come in from outside late. In the way he never interrupts but always listens. "You don't talk much," I say one evening. "You do enough for both of us," he replies. I snort. That wasn't a compliment. It wasn't an insult either. The storms get worse. Roads close. Signals vanish. The outside world becomes something theoretical. The cabin shrinks. On the 10th night, the power flickers. I gasp before I can stop myself. Elias is on his feet instantly, moving, focused. "Stay where you are," he says. The lights come back seconds later. Still, he doesn't relax right away. "You okay?" he asks. "Yes," I answer. He studies me for a moment longer than necessary. Then he steps back. Always back. I start noticing details I shouldn't. The scar along his knuckles. The way he removes his coat carefully like control is habit. The way he looks at me when he thinks I'm not watching. Not hungry. Assessing. Waiting. One night, the wind rattles the cabin so hard I can't sleep. I end up in the common room wrapped in a blanket, staring at the fire. Elias is already there. "Couldn't sleep either?" I ask. "No," he replies. We sit in silence. The fire pops. The snow keeps falling. "You're very contained," I say quietly. He doesn't look at me. That's how things stay intact. "And when they don't? Then something breaks," he says. "Or opens." The way he says opens makes my chest tighten. Weeks pass. The cabin becomes its own world. We start sharing meals not because we plan to, but because it stops making sense not to. Conversation drifts in and out. He tells me about growing up in places where winters lasted too long. I tell him why I left the city without giving details. You don't ask much, I say. I don't pry, he replies. If you want me to know something, you'll tell me. And if I don't? Then it isn't mine to take. That word again. Take. The first crack happens during a blizzard. Whiteout conditions. Wind screaming against the walls. The generator sputters, then dies. Elias and I work side by lantern light, fingers brushing accidentally as we reset the system. Neither of us pulls away. The contact is brief. Electric. Then it's gone. You should sit, he says after. You're shaking. It's cold, I lie. He hands me a mug. Our fingers touch again. Longer this time. He doesn't close his hand. Doesn't pull back either. Is this okay? He asks quietly. The question hits harder than the storm. Yes, I whisper. Only then does he release the mug. After that, everything changes. And nothing does. The space between us feels intentional now. Charged. He still doesn't touch without permission. Still asks before crossing any invisible line. But the waiting becomes heavy. Deliberate. One night I break. Not dramatically. Just honestly. You're not distant, I say. You're restrained. He looks at me then. Fully. Yes, he says. Why? Because if I cross a line in a place like this, he replies, it should be because you chose it, not because we were trapped together. The respect in that nearly undoes me. The silence presses in harder after that. Every shared glance feels louder. Every almost touch feels intentional. Until one night the cabin goes completely quiet. No wind, no storm, no distraction. Just us. You don't have to hold back forever, I say softly. He doesn't move. I know, he replies. But you are. Yes. Why? Because I'm waiting for you to ask, he says. And because I don't want this to be something you regret when the snow melts. The honesty makes my throat ache. I stand. So does he. The firelight throws shadows across his face, deepening lines I hadn't noticed before. I don't regret wanting you, I say. That's not what I'm worried about. Then what? That you'll mistake wanting for pressure, he says. And I won't be that man. I close the distance. Slowly. Deliberately. Touch me, I say. He doesn't move. Say it again, he murmurs. Touch me. Only then does he step forward. His hands settle on my waist. Not possessive, not hesitant. Grounding. You're choosing this, he says. Yes. The kiss is slow. Intentional. Heavy with everything we didn't do before. After we don't rush. We sit by the fire. Closer now. Comfortable. This doesn't mean we lose control, I say. No, he agrees. It means we shared it. The winter ends quietly. Snow melts. Roads reopen. The world returns. But something remains. When the truck comes to take me back, Elias helps load my bag. You could stay, he says. I could, I reply. But not because I'm trapped anymore. No, he agrees. Only if you want to. I look at him. Really look. I do, I say. And this time there's no restraint left to break. Only choice. Staying doesn't mean the silence disappears. It changes. The snow continues to melt, slow and relentless, revealing patches of earth that look almost vulnerable after months of white. The road reopens, but no one arrives. No cars. No voices. The world doesn't rush back in the way I expect it to. Neither of us does. Elias doesn't suddenly claim space he didn't before. He doesn't crowd me or assume familiarity just because the line has been crossed. If anything, he becomes more deliberate. More careful. That restraint, the one I thought I'd broken, has simply shifted form. We move differently now. Not constantly touching. Not tangled in each other. Just aware. When he passes behind me in the kitchen, his hand hovers for a second at my lower back. Not landing, not pulling me close. When I sit at the table, he chooses the chair beside me instead of across, close enough that our shoulders almost meet. Almost. You're still holding back, I say one afternoon. Yes, he replies easily. Why? Because wanting you doesn't give me ownership, he says. And I don't want this to turn into something smaller just because it could be more. The words stay with me. At night, the cabin feels warmer. Not just from the fire. The quiet doesn't feel empty anymore. Feels shared. Like something passed gently between us without being named. I wake once to find him sitting in the chair near the window, watching the trees sway in the wind. "You don't sleep much," I murmur. He glances back. "I sleep enough." "For what?" "For what matters." I sit up, blanket slipping from my shoulder. He notices immediately but doesn't move. "Come back to bed," I say. He hesitates. Not because he doesn't want to, because he wants to be sure. "Only if you mean it," he says. I do. He joins me then, not touching at first. Just lying beside me, presence solid and steady. The closeness is heavier than the kiss was. We talk more after that. About the winters he spent alone. About the way isolation sharpens people or hollows them out. About the kind of men we were both taught to rely on, and the ones we became instead. "I don't do well with chaos," I admit one night. "I don't either," he replies. "I just learned how to survive it. And now I'm learning how not to." The admission feels intimate in a way touch never did. The world eventually forces its way back in. Emails arrive. Missed calls. The hum of obligation creeping into the quiet we've built. I check my phone for the first time in days and feel the weight of everything waiting for me on the other side of this place. "You'll leave," Elias says calmly. "Yes," I admit. "Eventually." "That doesn't scare me," he says. I look at him. "Why not?" "Because staying matters more when it's chosen repeatedly," he replies. "Not just once." The certainty in that steadies something in me. The night before I go, the cabin feels different again. Not tense. Anticipatory. We sit by the fire, knees touching openly now, the last barrier gone without ceremony. "I don't want this to turn into something we rush," I say. "Neither do I," he replies. "But I don't want to pretend this was just circumstance." "It wasn't," he says immediately. "What was it then?" He turns toward me, fully gaze steady. "It was two people choosing not to disappear," he says. "In a place that encourages it." The truth of that tightens my throat. This time when he touches me, it isn't tentative. Still controlled but certain. Hands warm. Familiar. Earned. There's no urgency. No need to prove anything. Only the quiet understanding that this isn't the end of restraint. It's what restraint was protecting. Morning comes clear and bright. The road is passable now. The truck waits at the edge of the clearing. Elias carries my bag out without comment. Sets it down. Steps back. No pressure. No expectation. "You'll come back," he says. Not a question. "Yes," I reply. "Because you want to," he adds. Yes. That distinction matters. When I leave, the cabin doesn't feel like something I'm escaping. Feels like something I'm carrying. Not the walls. Not the isolation. But the knowledge that silence doesn't have to mean distance, and that intimacy doesn't have to be rushed to be real. The winter taught me that. And so did the man who waited long enough to let me choose him without needing the snow to trap us together first. This time I'm not staying because I agreed to. I'm returning because I want to. And that makes all the difference.